So this is part two of laying out your sections on sheets. Now, uh, what's important on your sheets is, and your sections on your sheets for layout purposes goes, is that we line up something so that every display is pretty much in the same exact spot. And what I mean by that is, if we look at one of the sections and we take a look, I showed the garage left as being my grid guide, and I don't have a garage left here, so I put a reference plane in there. So that's the reference plane of the garage. That's the grade, and so that's where I want my section to be. As you can see here, the reference plane is the edge of the garage and the grade. So on every single sheet, it's important that your presentation, certainly on your final project submission, is correctly laid out like that. So we did the side to sides sections, and now let's do the front to back. And maybe I'll cover something a little bit different that will help you'll understand what I'm looking for and how to achieve that. Let's see now. So I want to tab my views. So I have that. That's also in my quick access toolbar, which is in the view section area. And I simply right clicked and said add to the quick access toolbar. I already have it. So it tabbed all of my views, and I don't want any of those views tabbed anymore. So I just hit this, which is also close inactive, which is on my quick access toolbar. It makes it a little bit easier to work that, but I don't want even the side to side section. I want the front to backs. So when you see a sheet that has a plus sign next to it, that means that there is content on that sheet. So if we double click on this sheet, you'll see that I have content, but you can also click the plus sign and that will show you what that content is. So if you want to work on that content in this sheet, then you simply activate the view. If you want to work on that content without the sheet, then you can simply click on that object and there you have it. So you can see here that the grade doesn't look good because it's on top of something else. So I'm going to try to stretch that out. Now it's locked, which means that when I move that right now, it will move all of the other bubbles that are locked to that. So I'm going to unlock it so that we'll only move the grade, and you just click on this little dot right here and pull it out. I want to pull it out far enough so that text is not on top of text, because it would be illegible for anybody to understand what that is. So now I can see that I have my grade outside of there, which looks good. And let's see, everything else looks pretty good over here, but these are all lined up. They might not be lined up on yours. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that in your front to back sections, which are, if we go to the floor plans and open it up and take a look at the first floor plan, these would be the front to back sections. Now I want my first section to come over here, and I like my sections to go looking this way, and I work my way. Section 1 will be here, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, so that we work our way through. So there's some sort of rational thinking behind that. So let's do that. Let's take this guy and we'll go back to the front to back view. And that probably looks pretty good for right now. There's still more information to be added, but it's not necessary for the sections. to lay them out on the sheets. So let's go to our section 10 and see what happens. Well, you can see that it's not in very good shape there, is it? In terms of much of the information is outside of the title block. So I will deactivate the view, then I can click on the view, and I'll use my arrows on the keyboard to make sure that everything fits inside. This is section 10, which is front to back. So what was this section? Oh, okay. I already did these sections side to side in that. So that's probably an example here. If we go back to section 4. Oh, that's okay. Section 3, section 2, section 1. I was just looking at the grade there. Okay, the grade is fine over there. It fits on the sheet, and it is not on top of something else. So let's close. Let's go back to the first floor plan, and we're going to go up and use this close inactive views. That's going to close all of the tabs up there. And I work on a Surface Pro computer. It's not the most powerful. It certainly handles Revit, but I think that when it has a lot of tabs open, it might use some of its processing power, and I don't want that. So hopefully this might speed up the computer a little bit. Anyway, now we're going to look at that. So we'll go to that view. Everything looks good as far as the lining up of the bubbles and the lining up of the bubbles and also all the text is visible. Maybe we could pull this one down just a little bit. Let's pull it down just a little bit more. It might be, it's unnecessary, but it's just a little cleaner. So we know how it looks here, but how does it look on this section? So we know that that's section 10, because if it was minimized, you would see that there was a plus next to that. If we look at section 10 up here, which is, well, our front to back section, you can see that this is this box next to the section name is colored in blue, and that means that somewhere in your project that exists on a sheet, whereas our stacked wall families is not on any sheet. We don't need that on a sheet. So Revit's telling us, yep, you have all of these on a sheet, but you do not have this on a sheet. So we know that FB is on a sheet already, but let's rename, because we were doing FB1, so we'll call that FB1 instead. We'll go down here to section 10. It has a plus sign. We'll open that up, and there's our front to back. But let's see how it looks on a sheet. And it doesn't look that good yet because these bubbles are too high, but we haven't placed it properly on the sheet yet. So we're going to, I would start with my garage left, only because I want the grade to line up. We don't have the garage to line up with here. So we'll just drop this down so that the grade lines up with the top of our grid line. Let's quickly go back to the first floor plan, and this will be the biggest section. That's the one that has to fit on the plan. So let's expand this out so that in that section we can see what the extents will be left and right of that section. We'll go back to that sheet, and we'll want to make sure that the entire sheet information fits on that sheet, and it does, because this is the rear wall and this is the front wall. So we know we're okay with that. We've got this in the right location, but we need to make another one. And let's take a look at what is going to show up in every section. Well, we'll always see the back wall, so we could use that as our a corner of our, now I stand corrected, we would not see the back wall in this section, but we will always see the front wall. So let's use that front wall as our corner, and you'll see that'll make a little bit more sense. So this is going to be the other corner. Everything fits except for our label. We have to move that, but we can't move that till we get the section in its proper location. Otherwise, this moves. So if I move, notice how the label moves too. So we want to get the everything fit inside first of all, and then we'll make a new one. So we're going to make a new grid guide. We're going to say that it is the well, I'm just trying to think what to call it. Let's just call it, that's the office space. So let's use caps. Okay. And then we can move that so that it lines up with the edge of the office. And I just use the keyboard to nudge it over a little bit more. And then we want to bring this down to the level. So we'll pull that up a tad, just a tad. And I'll use the arrows on the keyboard. I like nudging it down with the arrows. It has a good amount of precision. And so what we're looking at right now is that corner of this grid guide, which is called office face, will be what we use to align all of our sections in our front to back. So now let's go back up to that front to back section. Maybe we can do it here too. And we want to duplicate the view. We'll duplicate it with detailing. And we'll go back to the first floor now, because in that view, we have the section line on top of the section line. And we'll just copy that over. Where's the next place that we want to see a section? Right there. And we can rename it later or rename it now. So this would be, we can also do that in here. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to do it there. So that would be FB2. We're changing the name in the properties box. Okay. And no information is in this bubble, which means that it's not located on a sheet. And it doesn't have this blue box colored in, this box colored in blue. So that means that it's not located on a sheet either. But we can duplicate the view now. So we'll come over to FB2, duplicate the view with detailing. And it takes us to that section. We can rename it now FB3 and go back to the floor plan. We have a section line on top of a section line. So now we can grab this and move it over. We want to come through this part of the house. Now, these two walls are aligned, but this has a different condition above it. This second floor has rooms above it. This second floor, this floor area is 2 stories tall. So what we want to do is make it a separate section, and it's FB3. So now we can say FB3, duplicate view with detailing. It takes us to the new one. Let's rename it to FB4 while we have it up here, and go back to the floor plan and hover over it. It says FB4. That's the one we'll select if we move it. And we want to, generally we want to go through the stairs. So now we're going through the landing of the stairs. It's FB4. We're going to duplicate that with detailing. And there it is. We'll go And the reason we duplicate rather than copy or put in a new section is because it will duplicate it with all of our cleaning up here of our levels and layers, are our levels. Okay, so this is FB4. We can rename it FB4 copy. We'll rename it FB5. And again, it doesn't have the blue box filled in. So Revit's telling us, well, you have FB1 on a sheet, but these other sections are not on a sheet yet. So let's go do that. If we started on 10, we'll go to 11. And we'll go back up and we'll drag the next section, which doesn't have the box colored in, and we'll just put it in there for now. And now you can see that the box is colored in, so that means it is on a sheet. Let's go to the next section, which would be section 12. And now, which is the next section we need, FB3 is not on a sheet yet, so we'll put that on a sheet. We'll clean it up in a second. Now we need to go back to the next section, which is 13. And we'll grab FB4 isn't colored in yet, so we'll grab that and just drag it over here. And we still need, and now the box is colored in blue. And then we'll go back to the next section, which is 14. And we'll come up here and the last one will be FB5. Okay, let's start with this one just to put it in its place. Proper location, office face, okay. So what do we want? We want the grade, the green line to line up here and the face of the office to line up there. So let's just nudge it up. Looks pretty good, and I'm using the arrows on the keyboard just to get it over there. I went a little too far. I can get more precision. The arrow keys will move it less if I zoom in closer. I think that's pretty good. We still need to do the title or the label. So let's say label, okay. Now where is the label? It's right here. Let's grab it and put it right on that grid guide. But the bubbles or the line is too long. We need to grab that bubble. We can't see the bubble until we click on the view and we'll pull it back. So that looks pretty good now. Everything's inside. It lines up where it's supposed to. This is section 14. Let's go to section 13. I use the tab instead of navigating through the browser. Again, first of all, let's do the office face. And zoom in here. There's the top of the grid. And I want my grade to line up with the top of the grid. It's close, but I can zoom in a little closer and I get a little bit more precision. Now the edge is over here of the grid guide and the edge of the house is over there. With that. And now I have the next section located correctly, but I don't have the label located correctly. So we'll change the grid guide to the label and say, okay. And then we just grab that label, drag it up, click on the image so that we can get that bubble for the label end. I'll put it right there. Looks good. Now we can go to, this is section 13. Let's go to section 12 using the tab. And we'll do the same thing. First, we'll do the office face, and then we'll do the label. So we're going to raise this guy up. We want the grade to be at the top of that blue line. Looks close, but I can do a little bit better. There, that's really nice. And the same thing here. I click on the object, and I'm using the keyboard to get it. That looks pretty good too. Okay, now we can do the label. Okay. There's the label. Click on the object, I get the bubble, drag it back, and we'll go to section 11. Start with the office face, okay. And click on the image, get the green line pretty close, and then get the edge of the office close, and that looks pretty good. Now we'll do the label. Okay. There's our label. We can drag it up and over. Maybe zoom in a little closer to make sure we're more accurate. Looks pretty good. And then click on the object, and that activates our label. Okay. And we're on section 11. Section 10, I think we already did, but I'm not sure. So let's take a look. Double check here. There's that. Oh, we didn't do the label though, did we? So let's do the label. And we need to move that over to there. That looks pretty good. So now we have a very nice presentation we're starting to present. Now, anything more we do on our sections will still show up. Like, for example, we don't have this room labeled, but we'll save that for another labeling. So that's one other thing is we want to put the labels in here. What is that room? But we haven't, I don't think we've labeled that room yet in the floor plan. So we'll save that. Oh, we have. Okay, so let's go back to that section 10, activate the view, and we can annotate, and we can put in that, well, we can tag by category if we wanted to do it that way. Oh, it's not, is it active? Yes, it is active. Okay. Well, we can tag the room here. And there we go. I did it from the architecture tab. So that's already, so that's tagged now. So that's the garage. And the other thing you notice, everyone in the class has changed this on their title block to their name, because if you don't have a name on your work, you don't receive credit for it. So you have the name there. So anyway, that was the section, the second part of the section tutorial. The first section did the side to side, and the second section did the front to back. So I want to make sure we cut through every part of the house. So this will show one construction. This shows this back wall and this front wall. The reason we did another one that goes through this back wall and this front wall is because this is a different height than this is. So we wanted to show that difference. Then we wanted to show that back wall and this front wall. Oh, we got another one, don't we? Right here, we want to do that one. So we have to make another one. This is FB5, we need an FB6 because we didn't put a section through here because we definitely need one there too. So let's say duplicate view with detailing. We can rename it now. We'll come up to the properties and just name it SS. Oh, that's, I duplicated that. We don't want that. We want the FB, not the SS. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Let's see where we have a delete option here. I did the wrong one. I want FB5, duplicate the view with detailing. Okay. And now we'll call it FB6. I like to show my mistakes because other people make mistakes too. And this is very helpful, I think, to some people who have made the same mistake I made. And I made a section that I didn't want, so I just deleted it. Okay, FB6 is not on a sheet. So let's go down. And section 15 does not have any information underneath it. So we can go to 15, meaning that there's no information there yet. There's no data on that sheet. And we can see real easily that FB6 is the one we want because it's not on a sheet, but I didn't move it yet. So this is going to be a duplicate of FB5 until I go back to the first floor plan and hover over that. That should be FB6. Yep, we're going to click on it and move it over to there. Okay, now we'll go back to FB6. I have a lot of tabs open here, which I don't like to do, but FB6 is right there. And we'll align it. I'm sorry, I guess we have to go to the section 15, which is we want to align that inside of the title block. So let's start. First thing first is the office face. Okay. And we want the face of the office and the grade to line up right with that corner of the top of the blue line. So let's zoom in a little closer to get a little more accuracy. Nudge it down a little bit and we'll nudge it over. Okay, so that's good, but we still have the label. So we'll go up here to the label, say okay, and we'll just grab this label and bring it up right there. Click on the image, which activates that little bubble, save our work, and we are completed the demonstration for placing your sections on the sheets properly.